It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
It is game day on Two Guys and a Goalie. Dusty and Gage are with you. Matt Cassian remaining on the IR. Gage, I'm wondering at what point he gets activated here. What's going on with this guy?
Yeah, he's on. I guess we move him to LTI. We have some cap space that we can use right now, Dusty. This is great.
It's so rare in this city to say that we've got cap space we can use. But you're right. I guess we do, Gager. I guess we do, buddy. Cass. So I already see Dr. Gonzo Penner's Pancakes. Like, how's Cass doing? Is Cass alive? We exchanged texts with him yesterday. I asked him how he was doing last night, and he said, after one or two sentences, the throat gets pretty rough. So we said, you know what? Rest up, and Cass will be back. But he is alive. Just the update for Cass, he's alive, so that's good.
That's crazy. That's that is so weird. Imagine Cass with the raspy voice, though. I don't know. Sounds. I'm intrigued.
It'd probably be pretty sexy, yeah. Probably be pretty sexy, right? Yeah.
With that
Gager, can you turn your mic up a little bit? Do you have like a way to turn that up or what?
I don't know what. Is it better now?
That's better now.
No, okay, I got to get close. I just got to get close.
That sounds better. Yeah, that sounds real better. That's the old Snowball from like 2012. It's still grinding it out. I like that. I gave you that when we started Two Guys, didn't I?
Yeah, because the other, I don't know what I was using before. I think I was just using like a little hit. I think it was the Apple AirPlugs, just a little mic.
Yeah, just the buds.
It was horrible. Yeah, it sounded like I was 80 feet down a hallway at some point. But,
well, Nasty Chat says it sounds much better right now. If you are listening on TuneIn or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com and you want to chime in, you can text us at 780-218-9999, or, of course, you can hit us up in the Nasty Chat as well. Spency 5 cents, he says, get Cass some 6 o'clocker loggers. Stat. That'd probably get you back on your feet, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I found a hidden stash of 6 o'clocker loggers in the city that I don't know if I should. Well, I might as well. The University Sobeys Safeway has a lot of them. I was in there the other day and they had tons. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Down on the corner of 109th right there? That one?
You betcha. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot in there that was had to pick a couple up, which and I was going to take a ton, but then the guilt sets in when I can't do that. And then I was like, well, I can just leave them there and come back later. But now I guess the cat's out of the bag, or the beer's out of the vat,
out of the box. People can, yeah. Well, I saw they were running off a bunch more over at Alley Cat, which is exciting for everybody. The places that have it on tap, it's been moving really well as well. So that's encouraging once again for the 6 o'clocker lager, which is outstanding. We've got lots to get to. Nylander gets his deal since we last spoke. Well, lots has happened since we last spoke on Two Guys and a Goalie. At least, of course, we had you on the show this morning. We'll get into Nylander. We'll get into the Philadelphia Flyers drama as well. I know some people have been talking about how the Nylander contract might impact the Draisaitl deal. I mean, I think you're comparing apples to oranges when you get to those two players. So we'll maybe dive into that a little bit. But it is game day against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Hawks are very much banged up here. Looks like Stuart Skinner is going to get the start here. Gager, what do you think of that decision?
What do I think about that? I mean, he played against them the last game, right? Maybe it was in the plan to go up against Bedard beforehand. Maybe it seems like one of those decisions, Dusty, that was made in advance, right?
So it's like, here's your schedule. Game. Skinner gets Chicago against Bedard. Yeah.
And maybe it starts up. And let's face it. Skinner's been going great. And I like I said this morning, I don't like these games. Maybe it's one of those, you don't want to say trap gink. I hate that phrase, but maybe Skinner has a really good, solid first period. If the Oilers forgot to bring their A game right away and is able to keep it close until the Oilers eventually drop the hammer and blow past these guys. I don't want
which
that
happens
to happen.
Tonight. Like they drop the hammer on these guys at some point tonight, right? Like, you have to.
Just the way. I mean, not don't even consider the rest of the lineup. Just the McDavid line is enough to beat the Chicago Blackhawks with their depleted lineup right now, right? The way that Hyman and Nuge and McDavid are just dominating teams. Just their starts, like starting them first, they seem to have sustained pressure. I think it was YouTube Trev saying, like, right off the hop, it looks like the Oilers are on a power play in most games.
Yeah.
So again, setting the right tone, the message with those guys, I'd look for them to start and just put these guys in the rearview mirrors as soon as possible.
I just did the math quickly. Stuart Skinner has started 26 of 36 for the Oilers, which puts him just shy of a 60 start pace, 59.2 games if it continues on this path. Now, they're not trying to mix in Jack Campbell starts like they were earlier in the year. We haven't seen a lot of Pickard along the way. Gager, let's just use 60 games as the number. I'm looking right now in the National Hockey League. Skinner started 26. Hellebuck started 29. Demko started 29. Bobrovsky started 30. UC Saros, no surprise, has started 31. And Georgiev in Colorado has started 33 and is rolling a save percentage of .895, but has 22 wins and 9 losses because the run support is there in Colorado right now. Can the Oilers start Skinner for 60 games this year? I guess would be breaking down bare bones question.
Well, the question I ask is, do they have to right now? Does Skinner give you the best opportunity to win? I'd say it's up there, but I can't argue with Pickard the way he's played as well, Dusty. Like, he's provided some pretty solid starts and made key saves at big moments in the games. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that Stuart Skinner's starting tonight just because of the way Pickard's been able to play and gather up some wins here. They got to be careful. 60 games, it's a lot, right? That's especially with the magnitude that they've put themselves in and having to get back into the mix with things here. Maybe they're looking at these next stretch of games. I'm sure you have to see Pickard at some point in these games because look, the Oilers have the opportunity to really go on a roll here and get right back into that Pacific Division.
Yeah, with this January schedule, man, they should be able to put themselves maybe right back up there into right on the edge of that top 3, if not in it.
So maybe that's the focus. Let's try to gain as much ground as we can in this January, because it does get more difficult when you look further down the line and see the teams that they will be facing at that point. But again, I feel that Pickard can get you a win in Chicago with that depleted lineup, right? And just another opportunity for Stuart Skinner to just take a mental break, watch the game, thinking about his next start. It can be his only focus. It's not the wear and tear of the physicality of the NHL. It's the mental capacity of staying within the game, especially a game like this, where I always found, Dusty, when you get into a game where you're not as busy, the focus that it requires can be a lot more strenuous than a game that you don't have to think and you're being bombarded with 30.
At that point, you're just in a zone.
Shots.
You're just playing hockey. Like, that's it.
It's like you on the radio. You make it look easy, buddy.
We're not on the radio anymore, Gager.
Okay.
It's even more relaxed here. You feel a little bit more comfortable. Mind you, I will say, when you go away for a couple of weeks, like when I came back on Monday, I was like a little nervous with like music and stuff. I was just I don't know. I've been doing this for like 15 years, man. Are you nervous? Like nervous that you're in on the morning? Like, boy said you did a great job, buddy.
Oh, I was dying. I was just like, oh my gosh, don't ruin this thing. To have at least Dusty be able to come back and do his show.
I come back.
It survived.
Yeah, I'm looking at you and Milne and being like, what have you guys done to us? Like, yeah.
Can you imagine?
No, I managed to get through it. I thought it went really well. I will say though, like for 2 guys and a goalie with myself, you and Cass, usually we used to go like 30, 40 minutes. Now we're rolling an hour, commercial free. What was it like rolling 3 hours for you in the morning?
It reminded me back of the 1260 days, to tell you the truth. It goes really fast.
It does go by fast, right?
Yeah, it's all like, even with the hangout, it goes by really quick. I was surprised. Tommy, he's a pro. He keeps things rolling and everything on track. I had one blooper which should be pulled. My tongue grew about 8 sizes too big for my mouth during Kind of Easy Trivia. I don't even know what I tried to spit out the word.
Wait, were you doing Kind of Easy Trivia? Were you reading the questions?
I asked the questions.
Oh boy!
Yeah, so. But I even heard Tommy giggle as I tried to say this word, and I was like, I don't know what happened there. My tongue grew out, and he was like, "Gager, it happens to everybody. Don't worry." But no, thanks, man. And I think if the dog days of summer when you're off gallivanting the Western Conference and the CFL, if you need a break, or give me a. Hey, I've been a backup a long time. I know what it's like coming off the bench.
You know what it's like to get that call short notice.
Yeah.
And then have everybody else be like, "Oh God, this guy again."
Oh, God. Yeah, but by that point, usually the game's out of reach anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Scott Laurie, Old Redbeard, says the Edmonton area is getting restocked again today with the 6 o'clocker lager, and the rest of the province later on this week. To Oily Sink is happy because he's been waiting to get more of the nectar of the gods, as he calls it, in Grand Prairie for a few weeks. So we got that going for you. Surveyor Brett says, did Gage talk to his people? Is he going to be the Scalding Hot Takes judge? What's going on here, Gager? Okay,
so it's a goaltender thing, Dusty. It's a responsibility thing. Let me explain myself. Because when I get asked to play goal for men's league, right? When I say yes, it is a major commitment, because essentially if I can't go, there's no game, right? So there's a lot of responsibility, and so the only thing that I worry about is because we're looking at Thursday start times.
Thursdays, like 8:45. Yeah.
So there's days when I have to get my daughter to school, and those, like, there's something to be in there and watching everything and seeing how it goes. So I might have to listen and call in to do everything. So I just want it to be the best possible segment that it can be.
Yeah.
And I think for that, me being there, sure. And maybe it does provide a little bit different angle for me just listening on the multitude of platforms that you can consume the Nielsen show. So, but of course I would like to do it, but it's more the responsibility to making it great is what I'm looking at. So trust me, the people have given me the go ahead. They want me to do this. I want to do the best for EST.
All right. So you're still thinking about it, or you're passing on it?
Or... I'll do it.
Okay. Well, it'd be great. On days when you're doing the hangout, you can pop in. You can sit right here. It'd be great. And then on other days, you can listen. And okay. All right. There we go. Guys, he's in. Tell the boys. That's we're excited to have it back. Actually, Scalding Hot Takes is obviously a huge part of the old show. We were just waiting for the right time. Found a sponsor that kind of fit with it, and it's gonna be exciting. Looking forward to that. Your hockey questions, of course, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. We'll get to those. Let's just sneak this in here right now, because Cass would probably be with us on this. But did you see that Mandalorian is heading to the big screen?
Yeah. That's I thought I didn't. You see something. What is going on? And then the big screen. That's going to be.
Would you think they just pick it? Because when they left them, they were kind of just retired almost, right? Like Mando and Grogu were just chilling, almost in like a Thanos cabin. Like they were just sort of sitting there. Is that not how the second season ended, or was that how the first season? That was the second season. They're kind of. They're kind of just in the. In the country, right? Yeah. Just hanging out and farming. So I wonder if that's what the show is. Like the movie is just them farming and having like issues with equipment and shit. Like that would be amazing.
That would be good. Well, what I hope is actually, Dusty, the timing of it all. Like have the season of The Mandalorian and then the finale, like a kind of a cliffhanger, and then the movie coming out in a few weeks later that will wrap everything up, and then maybe answer some of the questions
that'd be cool
that you had throughout the season, and then maybe a little hint of what's coming next. I think there's I think the X-Files actually did that with their movie.
Is that what they did? Is that how they rolled that movie out?
Yeah, they went to a certain point and then answered a ton of questions with the movie, and then the first movie, the second movie was garbage, but then it proceeded with the rest of the series. So yeah, I can't wait. There's actually Echo starts tonight.
I know. I saw it. Looks so violent. You see the trailers?
Yeah.
Like, it looks violent. It was only 5 episodes, though. Hey, I'm probably going to dive into that one.
It's all available, too. So,
yeah, they're dropping it all at once. So,
it's a late night.
I'll get the nerd fix in for us tonight. I think that would be good. VR Montenegro says he has updated your Wikipedia page with the Scalding Hot Takes news. So I love your Wikipedia page, just having so many random Edmonton sports talk things on there. It's the best. It's the absolute best.
That's pretty good. I didn't even know of that existence until this morning.
That was amazing. All right, I want to get to this text from Coach Mike, and you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, or of course hit us up in the nasty chats. 2 guys in the goalie cast, still feeling a little bit under the weather, so Dusty and Gage are with you here today. Guys, I expect the Oilers to crush Chicago, but how does a team like Calgary lose to them? Is it difficult to get up for a bad or undermanned team? Gager, I think there's 2 ways you can look at this, and I'll obviously turn this over to you, having played in the league. Like, I look at it, for a bad team of NHLers, sure. But for a bad team that's full of, like, half your American League roster, I don't know how the Flames lost them. I don't know how that happens.
Well, if you look at it from the Blackhawks standpoint, right? They're basically their top 2 lines are out of the lineup. It's opportunity. You get guys to come up. They're a young team with, probably when you look at next year, if you were to look at training camp, there's a lot of spots open for the Chicago Blackhawks. This is an ongoing audition throughout the entire year. You already knew it was going to be that way. So you're going to get a lot of guys trying to prove themselves. And they never say it is every game's the same. You want to treat it the same, but let's face it. There's not a lot of motivating factors that you can add to your own game to get up against the Chicago Blackhawks, except the fear of losing to an inferior team, right? That's the only thing. So, but in years past, I think this would be a more difficult game from the Oilers. With the maturity that we've seen from them, the way that they've won games, the way that they've not come back in third periods, they've played the same. You could argue that they play the exact same way over this whole stretch of wins here. Their game hasn't changed. Like you're getting very high level commitments throughout all 4 lines, and I really don't see as much of an issue as I would years past, but still, you don't want to take your foot off the head of the snake here, right? I said it this morning, you can't give the Blackhawks a reason to want to stay in this game. Make them start mailing it in after the second period and go from there. It's a great, not only I thought it would be a good opportunity for Pickard to get in there, but it's also a really good opportunity for even minute distributed throughout the whole lineup, right? You want to get everyone involved, everyone feeling good about their game. You shouldn't have to have a shortened bench against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Okay, so in the nasty chat, Connor Hagen says, the Oilers lost to the Sharks, but they were at a different spot then. The Oilers couldn't get out of their own way. This is a team that's won 15 of their last 18. I know we can go back and reference what happened against the San Jose Sharks, Gager, but this is night and day. I just don't see this Oilers team mentally being anywhere close to where they were at that time, which is why I'm completely tossing any sort of reference of, well, look what happened to the Sharks just out the window. I have no time for that.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a definite structure that Coach Navila has implemented with this team of doing the easy things that don't require a lot of skill at a high level, essentially, right? So all the little things that everyone can do, they're on paper. The Oilers can just do it a lot better than the Chicago Blackhawks, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Blackhawks goalie getting chased at some point and getting another guy in, just because of the way that the Oilers are rolling right now. Right? It's I can't see it, Dusty. We'll see tonight, but I just it would be so far a drop off.
Yes.
I think. And I watched that not all of it, but that Flames Blackhawks game. And granted, the Blackhawks did play well. It was a very simplified game. It just looked like the Flames just couldn't find that next gear, right? Definitely they were capable of finding it, but it just, some games you just don't have it. But the Calgary Flames are not playing at the same level as the Edmonton Oilers are right now.
You make a really good point on the Oilers just playing at the level that they're at right now. And if you want to cash in on that today, you can go to coolbet.com where we've got the EST exclusive already posted. People wanted me to get even greedier on this game tonight, but I've got Edmonton -1.5, so they just have to win by 2. The puck line is actually set at 3 or -2.5, I guess. Edmonton team total over 3.5. Draisaitl with a goal, McDavid with 2 points, Nugent, Bouchard each with a point. It pays +490. I feel a little greasy not having Zach Hyman in there somewhere, because Hyman has just been, you cannot, I think it was Stoff on Twitter. And look, Stoff only posts good things on Twitter. I get it. I understand why. But there's a lot of good things to post on Twitter right now, and he's managing to do that. And he basically claimed Zach Hyman is the greatest free agency signing in Edmonton Oilers history. And I don't know how you can argue that, man. He's just, like, since he came here, he was, like, the first year he came, you're like, that's good enough. Like, that's good for what the Oilers are paying him. Just give us that for a few more years, and this contract's going to be great. And then last year, he took it to another level. And this year, he's on pace to blow it. He's on pace for like 58 bloody goals. He's not going to score 58 goals, but could he take a run at 50? Looks like he's going to get 45. It's just, you could not have asked for the Hyman deal to work out better in any way. The only time I can think over like the last 2 years, or I'll just say this season, the only time I've been like, Zach, was when he took 2 penalties in that one game where you're like, and he was just working hard. He was just trying to go after pucks. They weren't even like stupid penalties. Outside of that, dude's near perfect. I know I have this love fest with Zach Hyman, but you just can't ask for more at that dollar value. It's incredible.
Well, to me, looking at the whole season, I really felt, and this is just my opinion, I think the 2 most consistent players over this whole season so far have been Warren Foegele and Zach Hyman. And when you get into the discussion of a most valuable player for the team, you have to put Hyman in that category, where his tenacity, the level that he plays at, the responsibility. Dusty, I really do think, and I know I've been kind of joking about this, but it's making more and more sense to me that Hyman is kind of putting him in that Hart Trophy category as most valuable player. He's been one of the most valuable hockey players in the NHL, and especially for the Oilers, considering what they went through. Him dragging everyone forward. And I know you have McDavid and what Bouchard is doing, and of course Leon a little bit under his normal standards.
I think you can make a case that Hyman has definitely been more valuable than Leon Draisaitl to the Edmonton Oilers so far this season.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely you can. Like, he drags people into the fight. It's so funny when you'll hear a coach, and I guarantee this has happened over his whole career, and it's probably happened multiple times throughout this year, is if you're wondering how to play, if the coach is saying, watch that guy, and that's how you play hockey. And we've heard all his coaches talk about him in that glowing regard. He's a better person than he is a hockey player, which is crazy to think about. But I love his game. I think that line doesn't do as well. And I know you have Connor that's doing amazing things, but the things that Zach Hyman does allows McDavid to be great. He's making the other people around him better. And those are the qualities I think you look at when you are considering a Hart Trophy candidate.
It's funny because you could say for young hockey players, the coaching staff could just put in a video of Zach Hyman and just be like, do what this guy does. But as a parent, I want to put in like a video of Zach Hyman and look at my kids and be like, just be like this man. He sets a great example for everybody. I mean, as far as, as much as Ken Holland blew it on Jack Campbell, he knocked it out of the park with Zach Hyman. Like, this team is not anywhere remotely close to where they are without Zach Hyman. It's just, obviously without McDavid, without Draisaitl, but you expect that from guys who are getting paid as much as these guys are getting paid and will continue to get paid in the future. But to drop a guy in there with Hyman's contract right now to do what he's done, it's absolutely remarkable. Oilers and the Hawks tonight, getting you set. We're going to get to a couple other stories around the National Hockey League. We'll hit on the Nylander contract. We're going to talk a little bit about Thatcher Demko because I know you absolutely love him. He's having a phenomenal season for the Vancouver Canucks, first place in the division. But Gager, what are your thoughts on Draisaitl, McLeod, and Foegele moving forward? Like, how do you think this roster shakes out when it's do or die time?
Yeah, I mean, there's still quite a bit of runway left in this season, right? For things to maybe there's a few games where stuff's not clicking with that line. I really think it's just another arrow in the quiver, so to speak, for Nobla. If maybe there are changes made that he can go back to. But gosh, I don't know, Dusty. It's become essentially a 1B first line. They everything they do, they're contributing offensively. Both of those guys have made life a lot easier for Leon Draisaitl. He plays with a lot more joy. It seems like from his body language as things were going at the beginning of the year for him, right? So I do believe when Leon plays with fast players, he brings it enhances his game of what he provides. He gets going a little bit quicker, being able to find guys with speed. Arguably one of the greatest passers in the game right now. So it's very difficult for teams to find the correct matchups, especially on the road, of who you're going to put your best defenders out against. Are you going to go up against the Hyman McDavid line, or are you going to try to slow down this new second line too? The worry comes from obviously when you get to the 7-game series of the playoffs and going up against the same type of lineup is that third center position, right? We always use the Kings as the example. They are deep, big, and heavy down the middle in LA. Who's going to fill that void, so to speak? But I don't know. It's obviously something. I think that's the most important thing that the Oilers have to look at. I'm happy that it's moved away from possibly. They're probably still looking at shoring up the defensemen and the goaltending, but I think the main focus is kind of that third line center position of what they can do, and maybe. Dusty, maybe it is McLeod. Maybe it does.
Yeah, maybe if it
McLeod.
Works back down there, you're gonna get his confidence up and then slide him there.
Yeah, maybe it was just a confidence thing. We've seen what that's done for. You could go through the whole roster and see what confidence has done for a lot of these players. But maybe that now that McLeod is rolling a little bit, feeling a lot better, and look, if you were to put side by sides of him at the beginning of the season till now, it's a completely different player, right? There's a lot more compete. This is the McLeod that we saw in the playoffs last year, more so than the beginning of the season in the dark days. So possibly going back to center and on that third line, he's already feeling good about himself, and he can solidify that position for the Oilers.
Kay Gill pops in. Hot take here. Connor Brown will score a goal and 2 assists tonight. Now, I will say, first of all, love the ballsy call here, Kay Gill. I will also say, though, I believe you've been popping into chats for 2 months being like, Brown's going to score tonight. We can only do that for so long. And then finally, when it does happen, be like, I called it. That totally. I knew it. I knew it was going to happen last night. But, he has got the biggest monkey, and he's got King Kong on his back right now, trying to get rid of him. So we'll see how that goes. Lick Fury is in and says, as much as people are talking about Draisaitl's next contract and him maybe leaving, why would he want to leave a team with McDavid, Hyman, Nuge, Nurse, and Bouchard? That one from Lick Fury today. And we can kind of tie that into the Nylander contract because, I do think, there are things that happen around the National Hockey League that you can link back to the Edmonton Oilers. I just don't view the Nylander contract as one of those things that would be linked back to the Edmonton Oilers when it comes to Leon Draisaitl, because they are two players in completely different stratospheres. If you want to talk about the next Leon Draisaitl contract, you're talking about Austin Matthews and $13.25 million that he's sitting at, not this $11 million that Nylander and a bunch of other guys in the future are going to land as well. Leon Draisaitl is in this class up here. But it's an interesting thing from Lick Fury, like no matter the money, because you're going to give Draisaitl his money. Like I don't think Draisaitl leaving comes down to money, which is why when Lick Fury lays out what they're building here, I don't know. I just don't see a scenario. Maybe I'm too naive, but I just don't see a scenario where Draisaitl and Connor McDavid aren't Edmonton Oilers together, buddy.
No, I almost, if you even picture him in a different jersey, it feels awkward, right? Having them on separate teams just doesn't feel there's something right. That's something wrong with the universe. That's another timeline completely, Dusty. Look, Leon, I remember that first deal, how everyone was so up in arms. And within a year, it was one of the sweetest deals that the Oilers have ever made, just with how he progressed. Is he going to get paid? Yes. Again, like you said, I don't think he's a comparable to Nylander at this point, although Nylander is, I would say, in that top four grouping, he is the most consistent player on that Toronto Maple Leafs team. He's been outstanding these last 2 years. Their best playoff performer, I would say, over the last few years as well. So yeah, good for him. He's done amazing things. That's a lot of money tied up in four guys, though, Dusty. That makes it very difficult to shore up any part of your life.
And there's no way out of it for next season, right? Like after that, Tavares becomes a free agent, you can probably walk. I mean, unless you somehow trade John Tavares in the off season. But I mean, you throw in Morgan Riley, it's $55 million for five guys.
I don't know. I mean, you're building a regular season juggernaut, I guess, right? You're making sure your season ticket sales keep going, because these guys do put up some good numbers throughout the regular season. But I don't know. We've seen it. It only worked for a little bit last year, getting their first playoff victory in years. But I just don't see the Maple Leafs progressing much further than the second round with how that lineup is constructed.
Just continuing the conversation here on Nylander and Leon Draisaitl, and how it's not really a conversation at all, in my opinion. K. Gill says Nylander has to hit 100 points before being compared to the top team players, and he's going to take a run at it this year. He's got 54 points in 37 games, but you have to sustain that. Like that's what those top end guys do. They're locking in 100 points every single season, or 95 points every single season. Leon Draisaitl, like when you look at, wow, how does the $11 million to Nylander impact Leon Draisaitl? It doesn't in any way. Nylander's last 2 years, best 2 years of his career, 80 points in 81 games, 87 points in 82 games. Right now he's got 54 points in 37 games, having that career year, no doubt about it. He's been relatively steady for them in the playoffs compared to some of their other guys. He's got that going for him as well. But Leon Draisaitl, over the last 6 seasons now, including this year, 105 points in 82 games, 110 points in 71 games, 84 points in 56 bloody games, 110 points in 80 games, 128 points in 80 games, and he's having a down year right now with 42 points in 36 games. So Leon's down year could work out to a better season than what Nylander's best season has ever been, which is why these two are not in the conversation for a contract comparable. It's a ridiculous waste of time to actually try to dive into those numbers. It's not even close.
No, when there's a top level of NHL talent that Leon Draisaitl is part of. And yeah, is William Nylander knocking at the door at that this year? Yeah, he is. But we haven't seen him break through it yet. Maybe this is the first year. And like you said, Dusty, it has to be sustained. and make sure that contract makes sense. Leon is way more in the conversations with
Connor
the
and McKinnon and
the
Kucherov.
Pasternaks.
Like, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, that's who you talk about as comparables when you take Leon Draisaitl into the conversation, right? It's not even in the same stratosphere. So I'm sorry. He brings way more to the table, I think, than William Nylander has done throughout his career. I mean, you're talking about a Hart Trophy winner too, on a team that has Connor McDavid. Come on, stop
it. Art Ross. I mean, it's not comparable to what Leon has done so far. We'll get into the Philadelphia Flyers trade that they made yesterday and all of the drama surrounding it. But the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, you look at what's happening right now in the National Hockey League standings, and right at the top, as a country, nobody in their right mind would have had either of these two teams at the top of the NHL standings in mid-January, yet here they are battling with each other for first place in the National Hockey League. The Winnipeg Jets right now with 56 points in 39 games played, a winning percentage of .718, which is close to the winning percentage that the Oilers have been on since they've been on this heater. Like, the Jets have just been that good all season. The Vancouver Canucks right behind them, 26, 11, and 3. Gage, now look, both of these teams actually are both scoring. The Canucks are scoring almost 4 goals per game. The Jets are scoring 3.38 goals per game. But when you've got a Hellebuck and Thatcher Demko between the pipes, man, it makes a significant difference. And I know a couple of years ago, you were all hot and horny for Demko, and last year wasn't a great year to be a Demko guy. But what are you seeing from his game this year that makes the Vancouver Canucks, and I'll ask you if you view them this way, a legitimate Stanley Cup contender?
It's too. I never trust teams that don't go through a certain part of the year with a little bit of adversity. When things are when the waters are smooth all the way through, especially in Canadian markets, they don't have any of that adversity to fall back on when things are going well. Look, the Oilers to me are in a great position because you couldn't get any worse than what they were doing in the
they've gone through this. Yeah.
They have a recency bias of things going very poorly for them that we don't want that to happen again, right? So you learn from your mistakes. I said this on with Tommy last week, I believe. I mentioned the Craig Button blueprint of Stanley Cup champions. And when you look at both the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks, they both have those key pillars, that foundational base of that. With the duo, a Norris caliber defenseman and a Vezina type goalie. Doesn't have to be a Vezina type goalie, but it has to be considered to win the Conn Smythe at some point during your playoff run. And they check all those boxes, both these teams. You could say, well, Edmonton definitely has the duo. Stuart Skinner has improved his game. And you do have a guy like Bouchard. I could put Bouchard and Nurse in there on the outside looking in of that Norris kind of discussion. Okay, I'm not saying they're going to win the Norris, but it's similar. But to me, Dusty, I just think that if you get into a playoff situation, the Canucks having this unbelievable season, they get into that first game at home and lose the first game. Oh my gosh, the world is going to fall apart, and it's such a small microcosm of the season itself.
Well, that first game could be against the Oilers or Kings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and they lose that game. I mean, if they lose to the Kings, the papers the next day are going to talk about how the Kings swept them way back when and went on to win the Stanley Cup. There's things that you sometimes you forget about throughout your career, but you learn again throughout the season. I agree. Yeah, they're having a great season. Don't get me wrong. They're a fantastic team. Everyone is playing at a very high level. but I just don't trust teams that go through a season without any blemishes.
Okay, so what about Winnipeg then? They've lost Kyle Connor, and they're still winning. I had some people, I don't know if they were from Winnipeg or not, chime in, I think, on the show yesterday, being like, Dusty, I think the Jets are better without Connor. They just seem to come together a little bit better. Kyle Connor's one of the best goal scorers in the league. You want to have him in your lineup, and he makes you better. But do you like the Jets' chances? Like I just tweeted out, who's got the best chance to win the Stanley Cup in Canada this year? And I think with what you've seen over the last 6 weeks, you can make a case for the Edmonton Oilers right now, but they still don't have Connor Hellebuck, and Connor Hellebuck changes a lot of things. Winnipeg, Huss was breaking down the lock shop earlier today. Winnipeg has not allowed 3 goals in regulation since Darnell Nurse snuck that one through Connor Hellebuck, and the Oilers scored 3 at the end of that hockey game. Like, they haven't allowed 3 goals in regulation since that game. That game was a long time ago, man. Like, the Jets are stingy, and they've got an amazing guy in behind that defense.
Let's say it now. They definitely won that trade for Dubois.
Yeah,
that there's not even a question at that point. They are so much deeper. Morrissey, when you watch that kid play, like, again, a guy that is a Norris caliber defenseman, and Connor Hellebuck. The only thing that worries me about the Winnipeg Jets is, we've been talking about them for years, and we've been jinxing them constantly, thinking that they're Canada's best chance of winning a Stanley Cup. But the amount of games that Hellebuck's going to play here, I think he's a guy that wants to play every night. I think if things keep progressing the way they are for the Jets, you're going to have to. I would love to see him in a 50 to 55 kind of window of games played throughout the season, right? Because it doesn't matter. You're gonna play the legs off him in the playoffs. It is a grind. He's been there before, which I think gives him the check mark if you go into a matchup against the Vancouver Canucks. I know Demko was unbelievable in that bubble when he came in. He looked like a guy that's been there before. That's a great goaltending matchup. You throw Ottinger in there, but those are the 2 best American-born goalies that we've seen in a very long time, I think. So very interested to see kind of what that matchup would look like, but I do give the edge to Hellebuck.
Nielsen and Gage with you here on 2 Guys and a Goalie. This text is in from Fat Dan at 780-218-9999. Oilers fans get butthurt when Draisaitl gets rated outside of the top 3 players in the league by people outside the market, but then they don't want to pay him what he's worth on his next contract. And after that, his current contract being arguably the best value in the NHL right now. I don't think anybody is saying that they don't want to pay Draisaitl what he's worth. I mean, Draisaitl essentially is going to get a blank check if the Oilers can properly manage their cap for the next 18 months. Right? Like, there's not going to really be a lot of back and forth. What's the argument against not making Leon Draisaitl the highest paid player in the league until Connor McDavid is? It basically comes down to how much of a solid Leon wants to do to the Oilers to try to keep this whole thing together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it basically comes down to that. This would be a great behind the scenes kind of conversation and to record of Connor and Leon, the discussion.
Yeah, because it's going to be a joint decision at some point, is it not? Like,
yeah, it has to be. Like, it definitely is if they don't accomplish what they want to, right? If they win the Stanley Cup, does that conversation change in any way, shape, or form? Do you think, Dusty? Does that
I don't know. It's a good question.
Become a legacy conversation instead of just trying to get it done? Once you win one, by all accounts, all these guys talk about is, I can't wait to win another one of these.
Yeah.
Like that's their motivation at that point.
And to build something special at that point, right? Like,
yeah. And, you heard Connor McDavid after the game the other night saying, get a good or 900 points and hoping to score a bunch more wearing an Oilers uniform. So whether he's saying that just for the fans or not, but I think there's some truth to it. And I do think those guys look at by all accounts, they like playing in Edmonton. They have nothing but good things to say about it. And yeah, there might be some discussions of, hey, let's on both sides. Like Connor McDavid's deal's coming up too, right? And they could both be talking. Hey, could there be a little bit of a hometown discount for those two guys? Then with the cap situation, looking at what it's going to be like, not handcuffing their GM to possibly bring in, or just have the ability to make some moves to bring in that final missing piece that can put you over the hump. Look, it's so much money, Dusty. I don't know what these guys want to do after their careers and stuff. It's I think having the prestige of being a Stanley Cup champion outweighs your bank account at the end of the day with these two guys.
T. Wilson is in and says, anyone else watching EST when they're supposed to be working? Kid Gill says, I'm doing it right now. Penner's Pancake says it's a union mandated lunch break. And Brent says he is working. He's just multitasking. That's true. We got to get a good relationship with unions of all types across the city, just to make sure that basically they don't have to work from 6 a.m. till about 1 p.m. Then they can get so much done in the next 5 hours of the day, right? I think that'll probably go a long way. All right, we've waited 50 minutes. Let's get into this drama with the Philadelphia Flyers and Cutter Gauthier. I mean, everybody already knows the story, but let me just try to quickly recap it. Gauthier didn't go to a camp in the summer with the Philadelphia Flyers. There were some reports that he wanted to be on the team this year, and they said, not yet. Let's just continue to develop. He's coming off a great World Juniors, which Danny Briere said and Keith Jones said that they didn't think his trade value would ever be higher. They've managed to try to keep this things under wrap, with Briere saying do it to protect the player and protect their value in the player, right? So people know. Obviously, now if they're out there kind of shopping around, other general managers are going to know, but it changes the discussion when the media gets involved and all of a sudden this guy's here and what's wrong with this, and it changes it from being like, oh, they're interested in moving, to being like, oh, they definitely have to move him. So then the deal gets done. Flyers media, through their sources, which would be people involved with the team, putting it out there that Kevin Hayes has his fingerprints all over it because he's a role model for Cutter Gauthier. Gauthier's talked about in the past, of like the one guy that he talked with Philly about is Hayes. They would golf together and things along those lines. The Spit and Chiclet boys defend their buddy Hazy, saying, well, this is ridiculous. Hayes actually hops on and takes a shot at San Filippo, calling him a clown. John Tortorella is asked about this because all this is breaking while the Flyers are playing a hockey game. John Tortorella is asked about it after the game, says that he wouldn't know Cutter Gauthier from a hole in the wall, which is a little bit of a bad look from a coach, but honestly, a dose of honesty from John Tortorella in that spot. Scott Hartnell made a point on the broadcast last night that, who's Cutter Gauthier to say, I'm not going to play there. Like, he's a 5th overall pick. He's not going to change. Like, he's not a franchise player like a McDavid or a Bedard or somebody, or Austin Matthews, who comes in and says, or Eric Lindros as the example from back in the day. This thing is just, last night was just the gift that kept on giving. Great discussion points, Gager. And I mean, the one aspect of it that that we never really kind of got to the bottom of, I know one of the guys from Spit and Chiclet has talked about it being a rookie G. He's not happy with a rookie GM and the coaching strategy and all this stuff. But this is a dude who hasn't even stepped foot in the National Hockey League yet. So to me, at that point, he comes across as an arrogant little brat, for lack of a better term. But like, who's telling him this about the Philadelphia Flyers? Like, why is all of a sudden, like, he wouldn't even talk to Danny Briere at the World Juniors? It's your general manager. Like, what happened along the way, or who turned this kid against the Philadelphia Flyers? That's what I really want to get to the bottom of here. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, what made him so put off the Philadelphia Flyers? Was it the fact that he wasn't going to be part of their team this year? Like, I read something about that, and it was upset about not on the team, but gosh, to to pull this kind of stunt. I said it this morning, I just find I don't like that with young players. It happened with Lindros. I thought it was ridiculous. Being selected in the draft, no matter where you go, is a prestigious event for anyone. And to say you're not going to play for a team, it boggles my mind at times when players do this. I understand. Well, you look at Fox situation, drafted saying he's not going to go to Calgary. I didn't like it, but I understand the desire to play at home in the U.S., being a U.S. born player, right? This isn't the case. This is a guy like a great franchise with the Flyers, like a historic franchise, and plus, like, I think it worked. It suited him well to be part of this kind of younger team where his skill set is a little bit more on the offensive side, where the Flyers do need to count on someone to become kind of their go-to guy of scoring goals. Everything seemed to line up as a good situation for him, and for this and all the other things, this is going to follow with him now once he does eventually get to the NHL, and who knows if he's going to stay. That's the other thing. Like, you don't know what type of player he is going to become. Any sort of bad play, or if things aren't going well, it's always going to come back to this now, right? He has painted a kind of a bullseye on his back without even being in the NHL now to perform at a very, very high level. Maybe he's got the intestinal fortitude to deal with something like that, but he's got to perform now. He got what he wanted. Everything he wanted out of Philly, that's all done. But look, when you see this guy in an NHL uniform, he better put up, because they are going to be all over him. I can't wait for that first game back in Philly.
Thought Philly did okay on the return. Oh, that first game back in Philly is going to be must watch. I mean, they got to put that on the TNT Wednesday night game, right? Bump McDavid to a 10:30 Eastern start, so people can see Cutter Gauthier and the Ducks take on the Philadelphia Flyers and find out exactly what Flyers fans are going to be throwing at him.
But although, like, Drysdale, sorry.
Yeah, Drysdale.
Hasn't had a good year so far, but I think there's something with this.
I thought they did well with the deal. Like, I thought they handled the deal really well. Like, Noodles on the show this morning, he said when he saw it, he was like, well, what's going on? Drysdale must want out. And then he realized it was on the other side with Cutter Gauthier. So I think both teams could end up being pretty darn happy with the trade. The loser in all of this will be Gauthier when he comes back to Philly and just gets absolutely rattled for the rest of his career, unless he loves the role of being a villain, which some of these guys do. This text comes in, Gager, and I'd like your thoughts on this. Boys, it's that U.S. national team development program kids. Just go through the list. Crybaby rich kids, Kachuk, Johnny Gaudreau, Fox, Zegras, Gauthier, Eichel, wah, 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 wah. I mean, there's a little bit of a trend there. I'm not going to say Canadian has never wanted to go play somewhere else. I mean, I don't know if it's just necessarily the U.S. national team development kids. And, a lot of hockey players, regardless of the country they're coming from, are rich kids along the way. If you're going to be dumping $40,000 and $50,000 into academies, your parents got some money along the way. But, I mean, you've seen, Kachuk, Gaudreau, Eichel, Gauthier. I mean, I don't know. I mean, those are some pretty elite American clubs. There's no doubt about that.
It's something further research, I think, Dusty. We'll see what happens with future players. And, I've always said this. There's a level of confidence bordering on arrogance that you do need, I believe,
to get to some levels like that,
to get to the highest level. And when you talk about the players that you just had mentioned, they've all done pretty amazing things at the NHL level. These are high-end players, like, that you can build teams around. Johnny Gaudreau, not so much right now, but whatever. He's been a good player with the Flames for a lot of years. There's a definite swagger, and that's encouraging. When you look at, you don't want timid players, just happy to be here and things. You want a guy that a little bit of a peacock and struts around a little bit. I think that's necessary. But too much can not only cause you your game to suffer, but it can ruffle veterans at the NHL level with a guy coming in and thinking he's the best thing since sliced bread, right? So there's a little bit of humble pie, I think, that will be eventually consumed at some point when you get to the NHL and realize, oh my gosh, there is a lot of good players at this point. Everyone gets to, except a certain few, get to a certain level that everyone's at the same skill level as them or higher. Very few make a extreme jump, and though the people I'm talking about are the Crosbys and the McDavids in those situations.
Completely different level with those guys for sure. All right, before we wrap up, just want to pass it along. And I saw somebody in the nasty chat a little bit earlier on saying for all the DGens, the Lock Shop Partner Parlay is up with our partners over at CoolBet. This is for the NHL tonight, plus 685. Columbus Blue Jackets under 2.5 goals against that stingy Winnipeg Jets club. The Boston Bruins to win. Nashville in regulation against the Ducks, and the Edmonton Oilers just in regulation tonight. That is plus 685. So let's try to cash out a winner there with CoolBet as well. Gager, what's your prediction for the game tonight, man?
My heart tells me that the Oilers are going to walk away with this one. I think we're looking at possibly a 5-2 Oilers victory.
Well, that would cover all of our bases. So we'll take it. I mean, at minimum, I need about 5-2. And 5-2 would be 5-2 would be really good tonight. All right, that's going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie today. I think we'll dub this show "The Judge is In," because that's big news for Edmonton Sports Talk moving forward. Hopefully, Cass will be back on Thursday. If not, for sure next week. I'm sure he'll be healthy enough to rejoin us. Gager, enjoy the game tonight, buddy, and we'll catch up with you later in the week.
If anyone knows a good place to purchase a gavel.
We got to get you a gavel and I want a robe. And actually for when you're in studio, we should get you like that old-timey English hair.
I might have to get the old powdered wig.
Yeah, that would be really good. We could take this to another level. I love it. Gage, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, buddy. Bye.